8-year-old Maya Brennan touched the rusted gate, and the ground exploded beneath her feet. 300 motorcycles roared up from underground tunnels she didn't know existed. Armed men surrounded her before she could scream. The biggest one, a giant with scars running down his face like battle maps, grabbed her shoulder with a hand the size of a dinner plate. "We've been waiting 8 years for you, little guardian." Maya had just inherited worthless land nobody wanted. The lawyer forgot to mention 2,000 Hell's Angels live beneath it, and they've been watching her since the day she was born. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. Subscribe now and stay until the end. Trust me, what happens to this girl will break your heart and rebuild it stronger than before. The key burned cold in Maya's palm, brass worn smooth by decades of hands that came before hers. Mr. Whitmore's sedan disappeared down the dirt road, kicking up dust like it was running from something. The lawyer hadn't even said goodbye. Just shoved that key into her hand and muttered 4 words that would echo in her mind for years. "Good luck, kid. You'll need it." Then he was gone. Maya stood alone at the gate, 8 years old, orphan, owner of 2,500 acres of absolutely nothing. The wind whispered through dead grass that came up to her chest. No birds sang, no insects buzzed, just silence so thick it felt like drowning in cotton. Her aunt's voice rang in her head, sharp as broken glass. "That crazy old man left you his garbage. Typical Brennan stubbornness. Dies without ever meeting you, but leaves you his problems." Aunt Claudia hadn't wanted to drive Maya out here. Too busy, she'd said. Too important. Uncle Trevor had smirked from his recliner and said nothing at all, which somehow felt worse than words. So they'd paid a lawyer to deliver their 8-year-old niece to her inheritance, like she was a package nobody wanted to sign for. Maya pushed open the gate. The hinges screamed. Metal on metal, decades of rust, protesting movement. The sound cut through that suffocating silence like a knife through flesh. Somewhere in the distance, something shifted, moved, watched. She walked forward. The grass whispered secrets she couldn't understand. Brown and dead, and reaching for her legs like fingers. The path ahead was barely visible, just 2 tire tracks that hadn't been used in months, maybe years. The kind of tracks that lead nowhere and promise less. Then she saw the barn, massive, ancient, leaning slightly to the left like it was tired of standing. Red paint peeled away in strips, revealing gray wood underneath that looked older than time itself. The door hung crooked on hinges that should have given up long ago. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Every instinct screamed at her to run. Get back to the gate. Call someone, anyone. But who? Aunt Claudia, who couldn't be bothered to drive her Uncle Trevor, who looked at her like she was a problem that would solve itself eventually? No. She was alone, had been alone since the accident 3 years ago when her parents' car hit black ice on Highway 87 and spun into a ravine. She'd been alone in foster care for 6 months before Aunt Claudia grudgingly took her in. Alone in a house where she slept on a pull-out couch in the living room because they couldn't be bothered to clear out the home office. Alone was nothing new. Maya pulled out her flashlight, the kind you buy at a gas station for $3, barely bright enough to matter. She clicked it on. The beam cut through darkness like hope through despair, thin and barely there. She pushed the barn door. It groaned, swung inward. Darkness swallowed the flashlight beam like it was hungry. Maya stepped inside. Her heart stopped. Motorcycles, dozens of them. Harley-Davidsons lined up like soldiers waiting for war, chrome gleaming despite the dust. Leather seats oiled and maintained. Someone had been here. Recently. Someone who cared about these machines more than life itself. "Hello." Her voice cracked. Too small, too young, too scared. "Anyone here?" Footsteps answered. Heavy, fast, coming straight at her from the darkness beyond her flashlight's reach. Maya spun around. The beam caught leather, tattoos covering arms thick as tree trunks, a beard like gray steel wool, and eyes. God, those eyes. They'd seen things, done things, survived things that would break normal people into pieces. "Don't run, kid." The voice hit her like a truck, deep gravel and smoke, the kind of voice that had given orders in wars and prison yards. The kind of voice that didn't ask twice. Maya ran anyway. She made it 3 steps before a hand the size of a dinner plate caught her jacket collar and lifted her clean off the ground. Her feet kicked at empty air. The flashlight tumbled from her grip, clattering across concrete, its beams spinning wild patterns across the ceiling. I said, don't run. The giant turned her around like she weighed nothing, like she was made of paper and wishes instead of bone and fear. She could see him now. 6'5" at least, maybe taller. Shoulders broad enough to block out the world. A face that looked like it had been carved from granite and then used for target practice. Scars everywhere. A broken nose that had healed crooked. Gray beard hiding more scars underneath. But his eyes weren't cruel. They were ancient. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. You're fast, he said. Good, you'll need that. Maya kicked, screamed, swung her fists at his face like she was fighting for her life because maybe she was. He didn't flinch, didn't blink, just held her there until she ran out of breath and energy. You done? She wasn't done, would never be done, but her arms hurt and her throat burned, and nothing she did made any difference at all. The giant set her down, didn't let go of her jacket, just eased her feet back to the ground like he was handling something fragile and precious. Name's Bishop. He released her collar. I knew your grandfather, knew your mama too, and I've been waiting 8 years to meet you, Maya Brennan. Maya stopped fighting. The world narrowed to a single point, a single word. How do you know my name? Because Hawk talked about you every single day until the day he died. Bishop's scarred face twisted into something that might have been a smile on someone else. Showed us your pictures. Told us about your first words, your first steps, everything your mama wrote him in her letters before the accident. Maya's legs went weak. My mother wrote to him, every week for 20 years. Bishop's grip softened. Not gentlemen like Bishop didn't do gentle, but less like a trap and more like an anchor. Letters would arrive at the post office box in town. Hawk would drive down once a week, bring them back, read them out loud to anyone who'd listen. She never told me. Maya's voice broke. She never told me any of this. She was protecting you. Bishop knelt down, bringing his scarred face level with hers. Thought if you didn't know about us, we couldn't hurt you. Thought if you never saw this place, you'd have a normal life, a safe life. His voice dropped to something almost gentle. She was wrong. The world hurts everyone eventually. At least here, you've got family to help you survive it. Family. Maya laughed. It came out broken. Wrong. I don't have family. I have an aunt who hates me and an uncle who wants to sell me off like furniture. You got 2,000 brothers and sisters who die for you, kid. Bishop stood. That count for something. He whistled. Sharp. Loud. The sound cut through the barn like a blade. They came from everywhere. From behind tractors Maya hadn't noticed. From inside horse stalls that shouldn't have held anything but ghosts. From holes in the ground she couldn't even see. Men and women in leather vests, patches covering their chests, tattoos covering their arms. Faces that had seen prison. Faces that had seen war. Faces that had seen things that would break normal people. 20 appeared, then 50, then 100. They kept coming. Maya counted until she couldn't count anymore, until the numbers stopped meaning anything and became just a wave of leather and ink and human beings who shouldn't exist but did. Hell's Angels, she whispered. Sanctuary chapter, Bishop corrected. His voice carried pride. Your grandfather founded us back in 1987, right after he came home from Grenada in the Gulf War. Took in every broken soldier, every rejected brother, every lost soul the world threw away. Built something beautiful out of all that pain. A woman stepped forward from the crowd, silver hair catching the barn's dim light. Kind eyes, the first kind eyes Maya had seen since her mother's funeral 3 years ago. The kind of eyes that actually looked at you instead of through you. I'm Raven. Her voice was soft, warm, like honey and smoke. Your grandfather saved my life in 1987. I've been waiting to repay that debt ever since. Repay it, Howie, by protecting you. Raven touched Maya's cheek. Her fingers were calloused but warm. Working hands, honest hands. By teaching you, by helping you become the guardian your grandfather always knew you could be. Guardian of what? Bishop and Raven exchanged a look. Something passed between them. Fear, maybe, or excitement. or both mixed together until you couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Come with us, Bishop said. Time you saw what you inherited. The stairs went down forever. Maya counted 200 steps before she lost track. The air grew cooler, damper. She could hear sounds now filtering up from below. Voices, laughter, engines rumbling, life existing where it shouldn't exist. Her flashlight barely mattered anymore. Someone had installed lights along the tunnel walls, bulbs hanging from wires casting shadows that danced like memories. Bishop led the way. Raven walked beside Maya close enough to catch her if she stumbled, but not so close it felt like a trap. Where are we going? Maya asked. Her voice echoed off stone walls. Home, Raven said simply. The tunnel opened up and Maya stopped breathing. A city, underground, hidden from satellites and helicopters and everyone who'd ever wanted to destroy them. 2,000 Hells Angels had built a city beneath the Wyoming plains. Streets, houses, workshops, schools, children. There were children here, running through streets that shouldn't exist, laughing at jokes Maya couldn't hear, playing games invented in darkness because darkness was all they had ever known. There are kids here, Maya breathed. Orphans, Bishop said. His voice carried weight, memory. Runaways, throwaways, kids the system chewed up and spit out broken. Your grandfather took them all in, every single one. A boy Maya's age ran past, then froze, stared. His eyes went wide like he'd seen a ghost. It's her, he whispered. Hawk's granddaughter. She's really here. The word spread like wildfire through dry grass. Within seconds, Maya was surrounded. Hundreds of faces pressing close, looking at her like she was something holy, something impossible made real by sheer force of belief. Guardian, someone whispered. Hawk's blood, another voice added. She came. She really came. Bishop raised his hand. Silence fell instantly, the kind of silence that comes from respect earned through years of keeping people alive when the world wanted them dead. Brothers and sisters, his voice carried to every corner of the underground city. This is Maya Brennan. By blood and by law, this sanctuary belongs to her now. He paused, his voice cracked. And by our code that makes her family. The roar shook dirt from the ceiling. 2,000 voices screaming as one. 2,000 Hell's Angels who had waited 8 years for this moment. 8 years of protecting land they didn't own for a girl they'd never met because an old man they loved like a father asked them to. Maya stood in the center of it all and felt something she hadn't felt since her parents died in that ravine on Highway 87. She felt like she belonged. They gave her Hawk's room, small, simple, covered in photographs that told a story spanning decades. Black and white images of soldiers in uniforms Maya didn't recognize from wars she'd only read about in history books. Color photos of motorcycles and leather, and people who'd found family in the least likely place. And pictures of Maya, hundreds of them. Maya as a newborn, red-faced and screaming. Maya taking her first steps. Maya on her first day of kindergarten. Maya at her mother's funeral, standing between strangers who didn't love her. Every moment of her life documented by a man she'd never met. Bishop pressed a leather journal into her hands. Your grandfather's, he said, wrote in it nearly every day for over 30 years. Figured you should read it. Understand what he built. What you're protecting now. Then he left her alone with ghosts and memories. Maya sat on the bed. The mattress was firm, military corners on the sheets, everything neat and precise and organized like the man who'd slept here expected to die at any moment and wanted his affairs in order. She opened the journal. The handwriting was neat, careful, small but perfectly legible. The words of a man who knew he was building something that had to outlast him. March 15th, 1989. Took in another soldier today. Name's Michael, but he wants to be called Bishop. Lost his whole unit in Grenada. Government gave him a medal and a discharge. I gave him a home. Seems like a fair trade. June 3rd, 1995. Raven had her baby today. Girl, named her Hope, first child born in the sanctuary. Won't be the last. We're building something beautiful here. Something that matters. December 12th, 2003. My daughter called. She's pregnant. A boy, she says, but I know better. It's a girl, I can feel it. She's naming her Maya, after my mother. Says I'll never meet her. made that crystal clear. But I'll protect her anyway, from a distance, always from a distance. Maya's chest tightened. She flipped forward, years passing in careful script. Lives saved, children taken in. Family built from broken pieces. She turned to the last entry, dated 3 months ago. They're coming for us. The land is worth billions now. Lithium, rare earth minerals. Someone found out what's under our feet, and now they're coming to take it. Coming for everything we've built. But I've prepared. The lawyers have their instructions. The trust is unbreakable. And Maya, my granddaughter, the girl I've loved since before she was born, Maya will carry this forward. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm sorry for the burden I'm leaving you. But you're a Brennan, and Brennans don't break. We don't bend. We don't run. Blood protects blood. Always. A knock on the door made Maya jump. She closed the journal carefully. Raven entered. Her face was pale. Maya, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Your aunt and uncle are here. Raven's voice was tight. They brought federal agents, and they're demanding to see you. The monitor showed everything in crisp black and white. 3 black SUVs at the gate, men in suits with government badges clipped to their belts. Sheriff's deputies in tactical gear, hands resting on holstered weapons. And in the middle of it all, Aunt Claudia in her fake designer dress and Uncle Trevor in his too tight polo shirt. That's my niece in there. Aunt Claudia's voice cut through the speakers, shrill and performative. Those criminals kidnapped her. Ma'am, we need to verify the child's safety before we can... Verify what? Claudia shrieked. She's 8 years old. She's alone with a bunch of murdering bikers. Bishop stood beside Maya, his massive arms crossed, expression carved from stone. She's good, he said, almost admiring. Almost sounds like she cares. She doesn't. Maya's voice was flat, empty. She never has. I'm just a problem she got stuck with. I know, kid. We've been watching her, too. On the monitor, Uncle Trevor was talking to a man in an expensive suit. Not a federal agent, something else. Corporate lawyer, maybe. They kept pointing at maps, gesturing at the empty land above them like they were dividing up treasure that didn't belong to them. Titan Mining. Raven's voice was grim. She'd appeared beside Maya like a ghost. They discovered lithium deposits under this property 6 months ago, worth over $2 billion. Let me guess, Maya said. Her mind was already working, connecting pieces. My aunt and uncle want to sell. Already signed papers. Raven pulled up documents on another screen. They get $500,000 as a finder's fee. The company gets the land. All they need is you declared unfit to manage your inheritance. And then they become my guardians. Maya's voice was colder than an 8-year-old's should be, with full control of everything my grandfather built. Smart kid, Bishop's tone carried approval, just like Hawk said you'd be. On the monitor, Uncle Trevor started walking toward the main barn, toward the entrance to their hidden world. His stride was confident, entitled, the walk of a man who thought he'd already won. Maya's pulse quickened. Every instinct screamed at her to hide, to let the adults handle this like adults were supposed to handle things. But the adults in her life had failed her. Every single one. Her parents had died and left her. The social workers had shuffled her around like paperwork. Aunt Claudia and Uncle Trevor had used her, planned to sell her like property to a corporation that saw her as nothing but an obstacle. These people, these hell's angels, these criminals and outcasts and broken soldiers, they were the first ones who'd ever looked at her like she mattered. Don't let them find the entrance, Maya said. Her voice didn't shake. 8 years old and her voice was steady as stone. Seal the barn, post guards at every exit. Nobody goes up until I say so. Bishop's eyes widened. Then he smiled, a real smile. The first one Maya had seen crack that granite face. You heard your guardian, he announced to the room. Move. 2,000 Hell's Angels moved. Uncle Trevor pounded on the barn door for 20 minutes before giving up. Maya watched on the monitors as her uncle kicked the rusted wood, screamed obscenities that made the federal agents look embarrassed, demanded someone come out and face him like a man, even though the only person in charge was an 8-year-old girl he'd never loved. The federal agents looked uncomfortable. This wasn't what they'd signed up for. Missing child case, they'd been told. Potential kidnapping. But the barn was sealed tight and nobody was answering, and the longer they stood there, the more it looked like maybe they'd been lied to. Aunt Claudia kept checking her phone, probably calculating how much longer this was going to take, probably wondering if the 500,000 was worth the hassle. "They'll be back," Raven said quietly. "Tomorrow with more lawyers, more agents, maybe a warrant." "Let them come." Maya still held her grandfather's journal, still felt his words burning in her memory. He spent over 30 years preparing for this. "Everything I need is in here." She held up the journal. Legal documents, trust agreements, evidence. He knew they'd come eventually. He made sure we'd be ready. Bishop laughed. The sound was like boulders rolling downhill. "Hawk always said you were special." I didn't believe him. Thought it was just an old man talking about a grandkid he'd never met. He shook his head. "I was wrong. You're more than special. You're exactly what we need." "I'm not special." Maya's voice was quiet. "I'm just tired of being pushed around." "Same thing in my experience," Bishop said. The monitor showed the convoy leaving, kicking up dust as they retreated down the dirt road. But they'd be back. Everyone in the room knew it. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She sat at her grandfather's desk reading the journal by candlelight, trying to understand the man who'd loved her from a distance for 8 years, who'd protected her without ever touching her, who'd built an empire of outcasts and given it to a girl he'd never met because blood was blood and family was everything. Hawk Brennan had been a hero, decorated soldier, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, saved 47 men in the Gulf War, and carried the guilt of the ones he couldn't save for the rest of his life. He'd built this sanctuary because he understood something most people didn't. That broken doesn't mean worthless. That the people society throws away are often the ones with the most to give. That everyone deserves a second chance even if they don't deserve it. 2,000 Hell's Angels. Veterans with PTSD who couldn't get help anywhere else. Outcasts who'd served their time in prison and had nowhere to go. Criminals who'd paid their debt to society and wanted to start over. Children abandoned by families who should have loved them. Hawk had taken them all in, given them purpose, given them family, given them hope when hope was all they had left. And now that responsibility belonged to an 8-year-old girl who sometimes still woke up crying for her mother. A soft knock. Maya, Raven's voice through the door, gentle, concerned. "You should rest. Tomorrow will be hard." "I know. You're not alone in this. Whatever happens, we face it together." "I know that too." Silence. Then, "Your grandfather would be proud of you." Maya closed the journal, pressed it against her chest like it could somehow connect her to the man who'd written it, the man who'd loved her without ever knowing her. "I hope so," she whispered. "I really hope so." Dawn came blood red over Wyoming. Maya stood at the main tunnel entrance, Bishop on one side, Raven on the other. Behind them, 2,000 Hell's Angels waited in formation. Men and women who'd spent their whole lives fighting wars, fighting addiction, fighting a world that wanted them dead or forgotten. Now they were ready to fight again, for their home, for their guardian, for everything Hawk Brennan had given them. Maya looked up at Bishop. His scarred face was set like stone, but his eyes told a different story. Pride, fear, hope, all mixed together. "Whatever happens today," Maya said. Her voice was small but steady. "Promise me something. Name it. Promise me the children are safe. Whatever else we lose, we don't lose them." Bishop's jaw tightened. His massive hands curled into fists that could break bones and had probably in lives lived before this moment. "On my life, little guardian." His voice was rough, raw. "On my life and everyone else's down here. We don't lose them. Not one, not ever." The monitors flickered. New vehicles approaching. More than yesterday. News vans now. Helicopters in the distance. The world had found them. After over 30 years in the shadows, the Hell's Angels Sanctuary was about to become the biggest story in America. And at the center of it all stood Maya Brennan, 8 years old, scared out of her mind, and absolutely refusing to run. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory, words from a journal entry written years before she was born. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is being terrified and standing your ground anyway." The Brennans have always stood their ground. We don't break, we don't bend, we don't run. Maya straightened her spine. Open the doors, she said. Let them come. The barn doors groaned open. Sunlight hit Maya's face like a slap. She didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't take a single step backward even though every nerve in her body screamed at her to run. Bishop stood 3 feet behind her, close enough to protect, far enough to let her lead. There she is! Aunt Claudia's voice cut through the morning air like a broken siren. Maya, baby, are you okay? She ran toward them, arms open wide, high heels sinking into the dirt with every step, playing the concerned aunt for cameras that were definitely rolling, for federal agents who were definitely watching, for a performance Maya had seen 100 times before in the 3 years she'd lived under Claudia's roof. Don't touch me. Claudia stopped mid-stride, her arms dropped. For half a second, the mask slipped. Maya saw what was underneath. Annoyance, calculation, greed. Then the mask snapped back into place, perfect in plastic and completely fake. Sweetheart, you don't know what you're saying. These people have brainwashed you. They're dangerous criminals who... They're my family. The words hung in the morning air like smoke. We're your family. Uncle Trevor pushed past 2 federal agents to reach them. His face was red, sweating, twisted with an anger he couldn't quite hide. We're the ones who took you in after your parents died. We're the ones who fed you and clothed you and put me on a pull-out couch in the living room because you didn't want to give up your home office. Trevor's jaw tightened. That's not fair. You're right. Maya held his gaze without wavering, 8 years old and staring down a grown man. It's not fair. None of this is fair. But that doesn't change what's happening. A man in an expensive gray suit stepped forward. Not a federal agent. His shoes were too shiny. His haircut too precise. Corporate. Maya had seen men like him in lawyers' offices after her parents died, circling like sharks, smelling blood in the water. Miss Brennan? The man's voice was smooth as oil. My name is Harrison Webb. I represent Titan Mining Corporation. I think there's been a misunderstanding here that we can clear up very quickly. No misunderstanding. Maya's voice was clear, steady. You want my land. You can't have it. Webb's smile didn't flicker. Child, you're 8 years old. You can't possibly understand the complexities of property law. Mineral rights, environmental regulations, adult matters that require adult decision-making. I understand that you paid my aunt and uncle $500,000 to help you steal my inheritance. The smile died. Aunt Claudia made a choking sound. Uncle Trevor grabbed her arm. To steady her or silence her, Maya couldn't tell. That's a serious accusation, Webb said slowly. It's not an accusation. It's a fact. Maya pulled a folded paper from her back pocket, a page she'd torn from her grandfather's journal at 3 a.m. when she couldn't sleep. My grandfather knew you were coming. He had people watching Titan for years. He documented every meeting, every phone call, every payment. That's inadmissible. That's hearsay. That's enough to start an investigation. A new voice, female, sharp as broken glass. Everyone turned. A woman walked through the federal agents like they weren't even there. Mid-50s, gray streaks in her dark hair, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Uncle Trevor's car. She carried a leather briefcase in one hand and a look of absolute contempt in her eyes. Who the hell are you? Webb demanded. Cordelia Finch, attorney for the Haven Trust established by Hawk Brennan in 1987. She stopped directly in front of Webb, close enough that he had to take a step back. And you, Mr. Webb, are trespassing on private property. This child is the legal beneficiary of a trust that has been reviewed and approved by the Wyoming Supreme Court 3 times in the past 30 years. Every legal challenge has failed. Every attempt to break it has failed. Cordelia's voice could cut steel. Do you really want to be attempt number 4? Webb's composure cracked. Just a little. Just enough. This isn't over, he said. No, Cordelia agreed. It's not. But for today, you're going to take your federal friends and your bought and paid for guardians, and you're going to leave this property. Because if you're still here in 10 minutes, I'm going to have you arrested for harassment of a minor. You can't try me. The standoff lasted 5 seconds, 10, 15. Webb broke first. He turned on his heel and marched back toward the SUVs, snapping his fingers at the federal agents like they were servants, like he owned them, which maybe he did. Aunt Claudia lingered. Her eyes found Maya's, and for just a moment she looked almost human, almost sad, almost like the Aunt Maya had imagined might exist somewhere under all that greed and resentment. Maya, please. We can work this out. We're family, blood family. That has to mean something. It does, Maya said quietly. It means you should have treated me like family when you had the chance. She turned her back, walked into the barn. Bishop followed. Cordelia followed. The doors closed behind them, shutting out the light and the lies and the woman who had never loved her. Maya made it exactly 12 steps before her knees buckled. Bishop caught her before she hit the ground. Easy, little guardian. Easy. His massive hand steadied her. You did good. You did real good. My hands won't stop shaking. That's adrenaline. Happens to everyone after a fight, even the ones who win. Cordelia knelt beside her, the sharp edges of her face softened just a fraction. Your grandfather told me about you. Said you were brave, but didn't know it yet. I think he was right. Who are you really? I told you, I'm your lawyer. Have been since the day you were born, even though we've never met. She opened her briefcase, pulled out a thick folder. Hawk paid me a retainer over 30 years ago, told me exactly what to do when this day came. I've been waiting ever since. Everyone's been waiting. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Everyone except me. That was the plan. Cordelia's voice softened even more. Your grandfather wanted you to have a normal childhood for as long as possible. He knew it couldn't last forever, but he wanted to give you those years, those memories, those moments of being just a kid. She paused. He loved you, Maya, more than you'll ever know. Bishop helped Maya to her feet. The shaking had stopped, replaced by something harder, colder, something that felt like steel in her chest where her heart should be. What happens now? Now, Cordelia snapped her briefcase shut. Now we go to war. The next 6 hours were chaos. News helicopters circled overhead like vultures. Reporters gathered at the gate shouting questions at anyone who moved. Social media exploded with theories. Kidnapping, cult, domestic terrorism, government conspiracy. Every armchair expert in America suddenly had an opinion about an 8-year-old girl they'd never met in a sanctuary they'd never seen. Through it all, Maya sat in her grandfather's study and learned the truth about the man who had shaped her entire life without ever meeting her. Cordelia spread documents across the desk like battle plans. Your grandfather established the Haven Trust in 1987. It protects the land from seizure, sale, or development without unanimous consent from the Trust's board of directors. Who's on the board? Originally 12 Hells Angels, who served with your grandfather in Grenada and the Gulf War. Most of them are dead now. The surviving members transferred their seats to designated successors. Cordelia pointed to a list of names written in careful script. Bishop, Raven, a man named Bone who handles security, 2 others who live in the underground community, and me. She looked up. You hold the majority position. 51%. Nothing happens without your approval. Bishop leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Hawk always said you were the key. Without you, the trust falls apart. The land can be sold. Everything we built turns to dust. Let me guess. Maya's voice was steady, too steady for 8 years old. My aunt and uncle want to sell. Already signed in papers, Cordelia said. They get $500,000 as a finder's fee. Titan gets the land. All they need is you declared unfit to serve on the board. Mentally incompetent. Victim of undue influence. Anything that lets a judge appoint a guardian to manage your affairs. Aunt Claudia and Uncle Trevor. Maya understood now, understood everything. Who have already signed preliminary agreements with Titan. They get the finder's fee plus 2% of all mineral extraction profits for the next 50 years. She did the math in her head. $2 billion in lithium. 2% over 50 years. And they'd make millions, tens of millions, maybe more. And all they had to do was prove an 8-year-old girl was crazy. They're going to try Maya. Cordelia's expression hardened. They're going to bring in psychologists, child welfare experts, anyone who will testify that an 8-year-old surrounded by Hell's Angels is in an unsafe environment. They're going to paint these people as monsters and you as their victim. But I'm not. I know that. You know that. But a judge in Cheyenne who's never met any of you, all he'll see is the patches on their vests and the tattoos on their arms. All he'll see, criminals and a little girl who should be in school not running a billion-dollar trust. Maya looked at Bishop. The big man's face was stone, but his eyes told a different story. Fear, not for himself. Men like Bishop had stopped being afraid for themselves years ago. Fear for the sanctuary, for the children, for everything Hawk had built. What do we need to win? Cordelia almost smiled. We need to prove that this sanctuary is a legitimate organization with a track record of helping people. We need character witnesses. The more respectable, the better. And we need to show that you're not a victim here. You're a leader. I'm 8. Your grandfather was 19 when he saved 47 men in the Gulf War. Cordelia's voice softened. Age doesn't matter. Character does. That word again. Character. Maya was starting to understand what it meant. How long do we have? The emergency hearing is in 72 hours. Titan fast-tracked it through a friendly judge. We need to be ready by then, or we lose everything. 72 hours. 3 days to prepare a defense against a billion-dollar corporation with unlimited resources and a team of lawyers who did this for a living. Maya should have been terrified. Part of her was. But another part, a part she didn't recognize, a part that felt like it had always been there. Waiting, that part was ready. Then we better get started. The first witness arrived at midnight. Maya had fallen asleep at her grandfather's desk, her head resting on a pile of legal documents, when Bishop shook her awake. Someone here to see you. Who? Better if you see for yourself. They walked through the underground tunnels, past sleeping families, past night shift workers maintaining the generators that kept the lights burning, past guards who nodded at Maya with respect she still wasn't sure she deserved. Finally, they reached a small room near the main entrance. A man sat inside. Old, maybe 70, maybe older. White hair cropped military short. Face that looked like it had been carved from granite by someone who understood suffering. He wore a suit that probably cost more than everything Maya had ever owned. His posture was ramrod straight despite his age. Maya Brennan. This man's voice was crisp, precise. The voice of someone used to giving orders and having them followed. I'm General Thaddeus Morrison, United States Army retired. I served with your grandfather in the Gulf War. Maya's breath caught. You knew him. Knew him, child. Your grandfather saved my life 3 times in 1 week. Carried me 6 miles through enemy territory with 2 bullets in his own leg. When I wanted to give up, when I was ready to just lie down and die, he told me something I never forgot. Morrison's voice cracked. He said dying was easy, living was the hard part, and he wasn't going to let me take the easy way out. Why are you here? Because I owe him a debt I can never repay. And because I just flew 14 hours from Washington, D.C. to make sure his granddaughter doesn't lose everything he built. Morrison reached into his jacket, pulled out a letter. The paper was thick, official, stamped with seals that meant something. I've written a statement for the court detailing your grandfather's service, his heroism, his character. Whatever those corporate bastards say about this place, no one can question the man who built it. Will that be enough? Morrison's granite face softened. I don't know, child, but I'm not the only one coming. Your grandfather touched a lot of lives, more than you know, and every single one of us is ready to fight for you. They came all night, a former United States Senator who had served with Hawk in the VA system fighting for veterans' rights for 3 decades. A doctor who had spent 10 years treating PTSD patients in the sanctuary when no hospital would take them. A social worker who had placed dozens of foster children in the underground community and watched them thrive. By morning, Cordelia had 17 witnesses lined up to testify. Generals, doctors, politicians, priests, people whose word carried weight in courtrooms and congressional hearings. But it still might not be enough. Titan has deeper pockets, Cordelia warned. They stood in the command center watching the sunrise over Wyoming. They can afford to drag this out for years, decades, until the legal fees bankrupt us and we're forced to settle. Then we need something else. Maya paced the small room. Her mind was racing, connecting dots, seeing patterns. Something they can't fight with money. Like what? I don't know yet. She stopped at the bookshelf. Her eyes scanned titles she couldn't read in the dim light. But my grandfather knew this day would come. He planned for everything else. He must have planned for this too. Bishop shifted in the doorway. There's one more place we haven't looked. Where? The vault under the main house. Hawks sealed it up 5 years ago. Said nobody should open it until you were ready. Why didn't you tell me before? Because I didn't think you were ready. Bishop shook his head slowly. But after watching you face down those corporate sharks yesterday, after seeing you stand your ground when grown men would have run, I was wrong. You're more ready than anyone I've ever met. The vault was hidden behind a false wall in the ranch house basement. Maya had walked past it a dozen times without noticing. The door looked like regular wood paneling until Bishop pressed a hidden switch and it swung inward, revealing a steel door with a combination lock. What's the combination? Your birthday, month, day, year. Maya's fingers found the dial. Click, click, click. The sound echoed in the small space. The door swung open. Inside was a room about the size of a closet. Metal shelves lined the walls. No treasure, no gold, no stacks of cash like in the movies. Just files. Hundreds of them. Boxes and folders and binders stuffed with papers that smelled like dust and secrets. And in the center of it all, a single envelope with one word written on the front in her grandfather's handwriting. Maya. She picked it up, her chest tightened. This was it. Whatever her grandfather had been planning for 8 years, whatever secret weapon he had been preparing. It was in this envelope. Maya opened it. Inside was a letter and a flash drive. She read the letter first. Maya, if you're rereading this, the wolves have come for our home. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to protect you myself, but I've given you everything you need to win this fight. The files in this vault contain over 30 years of documentation. Every child we've rescued, every veteran we've rehabilitated, every family we've rebuilt. Birth certificates, adoption papers, employment records, medical histories, legal proof that this sanctuary has saved thousands of lives. But that's not the important thing. The flash drive contains something else, something I spent 20 years gathering. Evidence of every crime Titan Mining has committed across 6 continents. Bribery, environmental destruction, indigenous displacement, worker exploitation, things that would destroy them if they ever became public. I never wanted to use it. Blackmail goes against everything I believe in. But I kept it anyway, just in case, because protecting this family matters more than my principles. The question is, what do you believe in? You can use this evidence to destroy them, or you can use it to negotiate, or you can lock it away and never look at it again. The choice is yours. Whatever you decide, know this. I'm proud of you. I've been proud of you since the day you were born. You carry the best of your mother in you and the best of me, and something else that's entirely your own. You're going to change the world, Maya. I've always known it. I love you, granddaughter. Forever yours, Hawk. Maya read the letter twice. Then she looked at the flash drive in her hand. 20 years of evidence. Enough to destroy a billion-dollar corporation. Enough to save her family. Or enough to make her exactly the kind of person her grandfather had spent over 30 years fighting against. What does it say? Bishop asked from the doorway. Maya met his eyes. He gave me a choice. She held up the flash drive. I'm going to make the right one. Cordelia stared at the flash drive like it was a live grenade. Do you understand what you're giving me? Yes. If we use this, Titan goes down. Not just the lawsuit, their entire company. Stock prices crash. Executives go to prison. Thousands of people lose their jobs. I know. And if they find out we have it before we go public, they'll do anything to stop us. Anything. These aren't people who play by rules. Maya met her eyes. Neither are we. Cordelia was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed. A sharp surprise sound that echoed off the tunnel walls. Your grandfather was right about you. You really are something special. I'm not special. I'm just tired of losing. That's the same thing, kid. That's exactly the same thing. She pocketed the flash drive and gathered her files. I need to make some calls. Journalists, federal prosecutors, people who've been waiting for a chance to take Titan down for years. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. No mistakes. No mercy. No mercy, Maya repeated. Cordelia paused at the door. You know, when your grandfather first told me about you, I thought he was crazy. Leaving all this to a child. It seemed impossible. Irresponsible even. She shook her head. But now I understand. He wasn't just leaving you a ranch or a trust fund or a community of bikers. He was leaving you a choice. And you made the right one. How do you know it's the right one? Because it's the hard one. The easy thing would have been to take the money, sell the land, walk away and forget any of this ever happened. You chose to fight instead. Cordelia smiled, a real smile, the first one Maya had seen on her face. That's how I know. The next morning, everything changed. Maya woke to the sound of Bishop pounding on her door. Get up, now, we have a problem. She was dressed and in the command center in under 2 minutes. The room was packed. Bishop, Raven, Cordelia, Bone, a dozen other senior angels, all staring at monitors showing the main gate. What's happening? Bishop pointed at the screen. There were at least 50 vehicles outside now, not just SUVs and news vans, tanks, actual military vehicles with mounted weapons and soldiers in body armor. National Guard, Bishop growled. Governor called them in 2 hours ago, says we're a domestic terrorist threat. That's insane, we haven't done anything. Doesn't matter. Titan got to the governor, probably bought him years ago. They're trying to force a confrontation. If they can get footage of Hell's Angels shooting at American soldiers, they can paint us as the villains no matter what evidence we have. Cordelia was already on her phone, barking orders at someone on the other end. So what do we do? Maya's voice was smaller than she wanted it to be. Everyone looked at her. 2,000 people. 2,000 Hell's Angels who had survived wars and prisons and everything life could throw at them. And they were all looking at an 8-year-old girl, waiting for her to tell them what to do. How many soldiers are out there? 300, maybe more. Bishop's voice was flat, emotionless. Plus the federal agents from yesterday, plus private security Titan flew in overnight. And we have 2,000 brothers and sisters ready to fight. His massive hands clenched into fists. Ready to die for this land. But if we fire first, we lose. Everything we've built, everyone we've protected, it all goes away. And if we don't fire, Maya already knew the answer, could see it in their faces. They come in, they take the children, they arrest everyone with a record. They tear this place apart looking for evidence of crimes that don't exist. Bishop's voice was bitter. Either way, we lose. Maya closed her eyes. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. Not words from the journal this time. Something older. Something her mother had told her once late at night when Maya couldn't sleep and the nightmares were too real. Your grandfather always said the best victories are the ones where nobody has to fight at all. Nobody has to fight at all. Maya opened her eyes. Get me a camera. Bishop blinked. What? A camera and something to stream live to the internet. Right now. Kid, what are you? Trust me. Bishop hesitated. Then he nodded. Bone. Get her a camera. 10 minutes later, Maya stood at the main gate, alone. Behind her, the barn doors were closed. The angels were hidden. You'd never know 2,000 people lived here unless you knew where to look. In front of her, 300 National Guard soldiers stood in formation, their weapons ready, their faces hidden behind helmets and visors. Young men and women who'd signed up to protect their country and somehow ended up pointing guns at an 8-year-old girl. News helicopters circled overhead. Cameras from every major network were broadcasting live to millions of viewers. Maya held a small camera in her hand, connected to a laptop, streaming directly to every social media platform the tech-savvy angels could access. She pressed record. My name is Maya Brennan. I'm 8 years old. 3 days ago, I inherited this ranch from my grandfather, Hawk Brennan. Some of you might have heard of him. He was a war hero, a Bronze Star recipient, a man who spent over 30 years helping veterans and orphans that nobody else would help. She paused, breathed, kept going. Right now, there are 300 soldiers pointing guns at me. Not because I've done anything wrong, not because anyone here has done anything wrong, but because a company called Titan Mining wants to take this land and dig up the lithium underneath it, and they're willing to destroy anyone who gets in their way. On the monitors back in the command center, Maya couldn't see them, but she knew everyone was watching. The live viewer count was climbing. 10,000, 50,000, 200,000. I'm not a terrorist. I'm not a criminal. I'm a kid who lost her parents and found a family in a place the rest of the world forgot about. The people behind me aren't monsters. They're veterans with PTSD who couldn't get help anywhere else. They're children who grew up in foster homes where nobody wanted them. They're human beings who made mistakes and paid for them and just wanted a second chance. 500,000 viewers, 1 million. Titan wants you to be afraid of us. They want you to think we're dangerous. They're spending millions of dollars on lawyers and lobbyists and probably soldiers to make sure you never hear our side of the story. She held up the flash drive. This contains evidence of crimes Titan Mining has committed all over the world. Bribery, pollution, exploitation, things that would destroy them if people knew the truth. My grandfather gathered this evidence for 20 years, hoping he'd never have to use it. 2 million viewers, 3 million. I'm not going to use it to threaten them. I'm not going to use it to blackmail them. I'm going to give it away right now to every journalist, every prosecutor, every person who wants to know what Titan really is. She looked directly into the camera. My grandfather taught me that you don't fight evil by becoming evil. You fight it by telling the truth and hoping there are enough good people left in the world to care. 4 million viewers. So here's the truth. We're not dangerous. We're scared. We're outnumbered. And we just want to be left alone to live our lives and help people who need helping. Maya lowered the camera slightly. That's all I have to say. Whatever happens next is up to you. She ended the stream. For a long moment, nothing happened. The soldiers held their positions. The helicopters kept circling. The whole world seemed to hold its breath. Then a single soldier in the front row lowered his weapon. Then another. Then another. Within 5 minutes, the entire National Guard formation had stood down. And Maya Brennan, 8 years old, orphan guardian of 2,000 Hell's Angels, walked back through the gate. Her eyes were wet, but her spine was straight. The video went viral before Maya made it back to the command center. 20 million views in the first hour, 50 million by noon. By dinner, every news network in America was leading with the story of an 8-year-old girl who had stood down the National Guard with nothing but a camera and the truth. Titan stock dropped 40% overnight. The governor announced an internal review of his decision to deploy troops. And from every corner of America, people started calling. Journalists wanting interviews. Politicians offering support. Ordinary citizens asking how they could help. But Maya didn't care about any of that right now. She sat at her grandfather's desk, not crying this time, just thinking, processing, understanding for the first time what her grandfather had been trying to teach her. You don't fight by being stronger than your enemies. You fight by being better than them. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough. Bishop found her there an hour later. The big man didn't say anything at first, just stood in the doorway, his scarred face unreadable. You know, he finally said, your grandfather always told me you'd surprise us. I never believed him. Thought it was just an old man's wishful thinking. He paused. I was wrong. I didn't do anything special. You stood alone in front of 300 guns and told the truth. In my experience, that's the most special thing anyone can do. Maya looked up at him. It's not over. Titan won't give up. They'll find another way. Probably. Bishop crossed the room, sat down heavily in the chair across from Maya. But that's tomorrow's problem. Today we won. Today you saved 2,000 people who had nowhere else to go. Today your grandfather's legacy survives. For how long? For as long as you're willing to fight for it. Bishop leaned forward, his ancient eyes meeting Maya's. That's the secret, little guardian. The fight never ends. The enemies just change. But as long as you keep getting up, as long as you keep standing between the wolves and the people who can't protect themselves, you win, even when it doesn't feel like it. Maya nodded slowly, understanding settling over her like a blanket. Get some rest, Bishop said, standing. Tomorrow the real work begins. The call came at 3 in the morning on a Thursday. Maya was still awake reviewing the witness list Cordelia had prepared when Bishop burst through her door without knocking. We have a situation. What kind? The kind that can't wait. His face was carved from granite, but his eyes held something Maya had never seen there before. Fear. They rushed to the command center. The room was packed. Every senior angel present, all staring at a single phone lying on the table. "What's going on?" Raven stepped forward. Her face was pale. "It's your Uncle Trevor. He's in the hospital." "What happened?" "Car accident, 2 hours ago." Raven's voice was tight. "Lost control on the highway outside Cheyenne." Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. "Is he okay?" "He'll live, but Amaya, there's more." Silence stretched through the room. "Your Aunt Claudia was in the car with him." The world narrowed to a single point. Was "she's dead, sweetheart." Raven's voice broke. Her brake lines were cut, professionally. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. Maya's breath came short. Aunt Claudia. Greedy, selfish, willing to sell Maya out for money. But she hadn't deserved to die. Nobody deserved to die like that. "Titan," she whispered. "That's what we think." Bishop's voice was flat, controlled, but Maya could see the tension in his massive shoulders. "Your aunt knew too much. The bribes, the secret meetings, the whole conspiracy. With her dead, there's no one left who can directly connect Titan to the corruption." "What about Uncle Trevor?" "Barely survived. He's in the hospital refusing to talk to anyone. But he sent a message through one of our contacts." "What message?" Bishop's eyes met hers. 3 words. "They're cleaning house." The room went cold. Maya thought about everything that had happened. The federal agents, the National Guard, the lawyers and judges and corporate sharks. All of it orchestrated by people who saw human beings as obstacles to be removed. "He needs protection." Everyone stared at her. "What?" Bishop asked. "Uncle Trevor. Bring him here. Give him protection." "Kid, this man tried to destroy us. He helped Titan. He was ready to have you locked up in a mental institution for the rest of your life. And now Titan is trying to kill him." Maya's voice was steady, which means he knows things they don't want anyone to know. She stood. "My grandfather built this place for people who needed help. He didn't ask if they deserved it. He just helped them. This is different." "No, it's not." Maya's eyes were cold as winter. "Bring him here." "That's an order." Silence stretched through the room. Every angel present looked at Bishop, waiting. Finally, the big man nodded. "You heard your guardian? Get it done." Bodies moved. Orders were shouted. Within minutes, a team was heading out to retrieve Trevor from the hospital. Raven appeared at Maya's side. "That took courage. He's family. He betrayed me, I know, but that doesn't mean I have to betray him back." Uncle Trevor arrived at the sanctuary just as the sun was rising. He looked like a different person. Gone was the arrogant, sweating man who demanded Maya's inheritance. In his place was a hollow shell, bandaged and broken and terrified beyond reason. They brought him to Maya's study. Bishop stood guard at the door. Raven waited in the corner. Trevor couldn't meet Maya's eyes. "They killed her," he whispered. "They just cut the brakes and let her die." "I know." She was going to testify, getting cold feet about the whole thing. Said the money wasn't worth going to prison. Trevor's voice cracked. "I told her to keep her mouth shut. Told her we were in too deep to back out now." Then he broke down, sobbing. A grown man reduced to tears in front of the niece he'd spent 3 years treating like garbage. Maya felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity, just the cold clarity of someone who had grown up too fast in too few days. "Tell me everything." Trevor talked for 2 hours. He told them about the meetings with Webb, the payments routed through shell companies, the promises of millions if they could just get Maya declared unfit. He told them about the other people Titan had bought, judges, politicians, reporters, a network of corruption stretching across 6 states. And he told them about something else, something that made everyone in the room go very, very quiet. "There's another heir," Trevor said, "another person with a claim to the land, someone Hawk had that nobody knows about." Maya's heart stopped. "What? Before your mother, before the sanctuary, Hawk had a son. Gave him up for adoption when he came back from the Gulf War. Said he wasn't fit to be a father yet." Trevor wiped his eyes. "Titan found him. They've been working on him for months. If they can't get the land through you, they'll try to get it through him. Who is he? Where is he? I don't know. They never told me, but they said he was close. Said he'd been watching the whole thing unfold. Maya looked at Bishop. The big man's face was stone, but his eyes burned with something dangerous. Find him, Maya said. Find him before Titan does. The hearing was in 4 hours. The courtroom was different this time. Same wooden walls, same hard benches, but the energy had shifted. Judge Blackwood sat where the corrupt judge had sat before resigning in disgrace. Her face was open, attentive, clearly determined to give both sides a fair hearing. Titan's new lawyers were polished and confident, but they kept glancing at the gallery where General Morrison sat in full uniform, his medals catching the light. And there was someone else. A man Maya had never seen before. Mid-30s, dark hair, eyes that looked familiar in a way Maya couldn't quite place. He sat alone in the back row, watching everything with an intensity that made Maya's skin prickle. "Who is that?" she whispered to Cordelia. The lawyer followed her gaze. Her face went pale. "I don't know, but I have a feeling we're about to find out." Judge Blackwood called the court to order. Opening statements were made. Evidence was presented. Witness after witness testified to the sanctuary's good work, its legal standing, its benefit to the community. General Morrison's testimony brought tears to hardened faces. The senator's words carried weight that money couldn't buy. The doctor's evidence of lives saved was irrefutable. Then Titan called their final witness. The man from the back row walked to the stand with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Took the oath, sat down. "Please state your name for the record." Titan's lawyer smiled. The man's voice was quiet but clear. "Garrett James Brennan, I'm Hawk's son, and I'm here to claim my inheritance." The courtroom erupted. Maya sat frozen. Every sound faded except her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Garrett James Brennan, Hawk's son, her uncle, the heir nobody knew about. The man she'd never known existed was about to take everything away. Order! Judge Blackwood's gavel cracked like gunfire. "I will have order in this courtroom or I will clear it." The noise died. Everyone sat. But the tension remained thick enough to choke on. Titan's lawyer, a silver-haired woman named Victoria Cross, who'd flown in from New York, approached the witness stand with barely contained triumph. "Mr. Brennan, please tell the court about your relationship with Hawk Brennan." "I never had one." Garrett's voice was flat, empty. "He gave me up for adoption 3 days after I was born. I didn't know he existed until 6 months ago." "And how did you discover his existence?" "Representatives from Titan Mining contacted me. They'd been researching the Brennan family line and found my birth records." Cordelia shot to her feet. "Objection! This testimony is clearly the result of—" "Ms. Finch, you'll have your chance to cross-examine." Judge Blackwood's voice was firm but fair. "Let's hear the witness out." Cordelia sat. Her jaw was tight enough to crack teeth. Cross continued. "Mr. Brennan, what did Titan's representatives tell you?" "They told me I had a father I'd never met. A father who'd built something called the Haven Trust. A father who died 3 months ago and left everything to an 8-year-old granddaughter I'd never heard of." Garrett's eyes found Maya's across the courtroom. "They told me I'd been cheated out of my inheritance by a man who abandoned me before I could walk." "Objection! Characterization." "Sustained. Mr. Brennan, please stick to facts." Garrett nodded slowly. "The facts are simple, Your Honor. I'm Hawk's firstborn son. Under Wyoming inheritance law, I should have been included in any trust established by my biological father. I wasn't. I'm here to correct that oversight." "And what are you asking for?" "My fair share, 50% of all trust assets, including the land." The courtroom buzzed. Titan's lawyers exchanged satisfied glances. This was their play. If they couldn't take the land through corruption, they'd take it through blood. And there was nothing Maya could do to stop it. Cordelia leaned close to her ear. "I need to cross-examine him. Can you handle this?" "Do I have a choice?" "No, but I wanted to ask anyway." She stood. Cordelia approached the witness stand like a predator circling prey. "Mr. Brennan, you said Titan contacted you 6 months ago. Is that correct?" "Yes." "And in those 6 months, did you make any attempt to contact the sanctuary directly, to meet your niece, to learn about your father from the people who knew him?" Garrett's jaw tightened. "No." Did you make any attempt to verify Titan's claims independently? I didn't see the need. They had documentation. Documentation they provided. Did you seek your own legal counsel before agreeing to testify today? Titan's lawyers have been advising me. So a billion-dollar corporation that wants to seize this land has been advising you on how to help them seize it. Cordelia let the words hang in the air. Did they mention they've been accused of bribery, corruption, possible involvement in a recent homicide? Objection. Cross was on her feet, inflammatory and unsubstantiated. Withdrawn. Cordelia didn't miss a beat. Mr. Brennan, did Titan offer you any compensation for your testimony today? Silence. Mr. Brennan, more silence. I'll remind you that you're under oath. Garrett's face contorted. The mask was slipping. Maya could see something underneath. Not the confident air demanding justice. Something more complicated, something wounded. They offered to cover my legal expenses. Nothing else. Cordelia waited. 3 seconds. My friend. 10. Mr. Brennan, $20 million. His voice was barely a whisper. They offered me $20 million. The courtroom erupted again. Even Judge Blackwood looked shocked. 20 million, Cordelia repeated slowly, to help them steal land from an 8-year-old orphan whose parents died 3 years ago. She turned to face the gallery. And yet you claim you're here seeking justice. I am seeking justice, Garrett's voice cracked. The dam broke. I spent over 30 years not knowing who I was. Not knowing why I was abandoned, not knowing if my father ever thought about me even once. His eyes glistened with tears. Do you have any idea what that's like? To know your own father chose strangers over you. The question hit Maya like a punch to the chest, because she did know. She knew exactly what it was like. Your Honor, Maya's voice surprised everyone, including herself. I'd like to address the witness. Judge Blackwood frowned. This is highly irregular, young lady. So is everything else about this case. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Judge Blackwood considered for a moment, then nodded slowly. I'll allow it. Briefly. Maya walked toward the witness stand. Her legs felt steady now. Her heart had stopped racing. She knew what she had to do. She stood directly in front of the man who shared her blood. I didn't know about you, she said quietly. Until a few days ago, I didn't know you existed. And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry our grandfather didn't tell me. I'm sorry he didn't tell anyone. Garrett's expression flickered. Surprise, maybe? Or confusion. But I know something about being abandoned too. Maya's voice was steady. My parents died when I was 5. My aunt and uncle took me in, but they never wanted me. They never loved me. They just waited for a chance to profit from me. That's not the same thing. No, it's not, but it's close enough that I understand how you feel. Maya reached into her pocket, pulled out a photograph. Worn and creased from years of handling. She'd found it in her grandfather's desk that morning, hidden in a drawer he kept locked. He never forgot you. Garrett took the photograph. His hands shook slightly. It showed a young woman holding a baby. The woman was smiling, but her eyes were sad. On the back, in faded handwriting, Garrett Jr. and his mother. Day 3, I'm so sorry, son. Garrett stared at the photograph. His mask crumbled completely. Tears streamed down his face. He never came for me, he whispered. He knew where I was. He could have found me, but he never came. No, he didn't. Maya felt her own eyes burning, and I can't explain why. I can't justify it. All I can tell you is that he regretted it every day. Until the day he died. The courtroom was silent. Even the Titan lawyers had stopped their whispered consultations. What do you want from me? Garrett asked. I want you to come home. Maya's voice was clear, strong. Come to the sanctuary. Meet the people our grandfather helped. See what he built, and then decide what you want to do. She held out her hand. You're my uncle. That makes you family. And in our family, we don't abandon each other. Your Honor, this is absurd. Cross stepped forward, her face flushed with anger. The witness is here to testify, not to receive therapy from a child. Ms. Cross, you will be silent. Judge Blackwood's voice cut like a blade. The witness will answer the question. Garrett looked at the photograph, then at Titan's lawyers, then at Maya. They promised me answers, he said slowly. They promised me justice. They promised me everything I'd been denied my whole life. They lied, Maya said simply. That's what they do. They find people who are hurting and they use that hurt to get what they want. And you're different, Ed? I don't know. I'm 8 years old. I don't know anything about corporations or lawsuits or inheritance law. Maya's voice was steady. But I know that our grandfather loved you. I know that he would want you to be part of this family. And I know that I don't want to fight you. I want to know you. Garrett closed his eyes. The entire courtroom held its breath. Ms. Cross, his voice was quiet but firm, I'm withdrawing my testimony. You can't do that. We have a contract. Sue me. He stood, still clutching the photograph. I'm done being your weapon against a child. He walked down from the witness stand, past the shocked lawyers, past the buzzing gallery, until he stood directly in front of Maya. I don't know if I can forgive our grandfather, he said quietly. I don't know if I can forgive any of this, but I'd like to try. Maya took his hand. That's all I'm asking. The courtroom doors burst open. Everyone turned. A man strode down the center aisle, late 60s, military bearing, wearing a dress uniform so decorated with medals it caught every light in the room. Behind him, 6 federal agents in dark suits. Who the hell is this? Judge Blackwood demanded. Senator Marcus Hayes, Your Honor. The man's voice carried authority that made even the judge sit up straighter. Chairman of the Armed Services Committee, and I'm here to present evidence of federal crimes. He walked straight to the bench, placed a folder in front of Judge Blackwood. This morning, the Department of Justice opened a criminal investigation into Titan Mining Corporation for bribery, corruption, and conspiracy to commit murder. We have evidence linking Titan executives to the death of Claudia Brennan 3 days ago. We have recordings of payments made to state officials to deploy military force against civilians. And we have testimony from witnesses Titan tried to silence. Senator Hayes turned to face the gallery. Titan Mining has systematically corrupted our justice system to steal land from American citizens. This case is being referred to federal prosecutors. Every official who took their money will be investigated. Every judge they bought will be removed. He looked directly at the Titan lawyers. Your clients are going to prison. Victoria Cross stood. Her face had gone white. Your Honor, we had no knowledge of. Save it for your own trial, counselor. Judge Blackwood's voice was ice. This court finds that the Haven Trust is legally valid, that Maya Brennan is its rightful beneficiary, and that any future challenges to this trust will be dismissed with prejudice. She banged her gavel. We're adjourned. Federal agents, please escort Titan's legal team out of my courtroom. The courtroom erupted into chaos, but Maya didn't hear any of it. She stood next to Garrett, still holding his hand, and watched as everything her grandfather had feared, everything he'd prepared for, finally came to an end. They'd won. The hearing ended. The reporters swarmed. Senator Hayes gave a press conference on the courthouse steps that would be replayed on every news network for days. But Maya barely registered any of it. She sat in the back of an SUV as Bishop drove them toward the ranch. Garrett beside her, both of them silent and exhausted and uncertain what came next. I should warn you, Maya said finally, the sanctuary isn't what you expect. An underground city of 2,000 Hells Angels. Garrett managed a small smile. I've seen the news coverage. The news coverage is wrong about almost everything. I figured. Garrett looked out the window at the Wyoming landscape rolling past. Titan showed me files, documents, evidence that the sanctuary was a criminal organization, a cult that brainwashed children and harbored fugitives. And you believed them. I wanted to believe them. His voice cracked. It was easier than believing my father had abandoned me to help strangers instead of his own son. Maya was quiet for a moment. My mom did the same thing, spent her whole life keeping me away from this place because she thought it was the only way to keep me safe. She looked at Garrett. Does that make her a bad person? It makes her human. They drove in silence for another mile. What happens now? Garrett asked. Now we go home. You meet the family. Maya shrugged. And then we figure it out. Just like that. My grandfather used to say that family isn't about blood, it's about choice. Maya met his eyes. You can choose to be part of this, or you can choose to walk away. Either way, you'll always be welcome here. The SUV turned onto the dirt road that led to the ranch. In the distance, Maya could see people gathering. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Spilling out from the barns and bunkers and hidden shelters, forming a crowd along the fence line. "What is that?" Garrett asked. "That," Maya said quietly, "is your family." The welcome was overwhelming. 2,000 Hells Angels lined the road, their faces a mixture of curiosity and wariness, and something that might have been hope. They'd heard about the courtroom confrontation. They'd watched it live on the news. They knew the man walking beside Maya had come within inches of destroying everything they'd built. But they also knew he'd changed his mind, that he'd chosen family over money, that he'd walked away from $20 million because an 8-year-old girl had shown him a photograph. Raven met them at the gate. Garrett James Brennan. Her voice was soft but steady. "I knew your father for over 30 years. He talked about you more than anyone except his daughter." Garrett's composure cracked. "He did. Every year on your birthday, he'd disappear for hours. Lock himself in his study with a bottle of whiskey and that photograph you're holding. I always wondered what he was looking at." Raven touched Garrett's cheek. "Now I know. Why didn't he come for me? Because he was ashamed. Ashamed of what he'd done. Ashamed of who he'd become after the war. He convinced himself you were better off without him." Raven's eyes glistened. He was wrong, and he knew it. But by the time he worked up the courage to find you, you'd built a life, a family, a career. He didn't want to destroy all that by showing up as the ghost of a past you'd never known. So he just watched from a distance. He tracked your accomplishments, your graduations, your promotions. He kept a scrapbook in his desk, newspaper clippings, photographs, anything he could find. Raven smiled through her tears. He was proud of you, Garrett. Prouder than he ever had the right to be. Garrett sank to his knees in the dirt, sobbing. Over 30 years of pain and confusion pouring out of him in waves. Raven knelt beside him, holding him the way she'd held countless broken people over the years. Maya watched. This was what her grandfather had built. Not just buildings and tunnels and legal trusts, but a place where people could fall apart and be put back together. A place where pain was acknowledged instead of hidden. And now it was her responsibility to keep it going. 3 weeks passed. Garrett stayed at the sanctuary, learning the history he'd been denied. He met veterans who'd served with his father. He read journals and letters. He visited the graves of angels who died protecting the community. Slowly, painfully, he began to heal. Maya watched her uncle transform. The bitter, wounded man from the courtroom gradually gave way to someone softer. Someone who laughed at Bishop's terrible jokes and helped Raven in the kitchen and spent hours playing with the children. "He's going to be okay," Raven said one evening. "You think so?" "I know so. I've seen it happen 100 times. People come here broken. They leave whole." She smiled. "Your grandfather had a gift for finding the light in people's darkness. Looks like you inherited it." Maya wasn't sure about that. Every decision still felt too big, too important, too likely to hurt someone if she got it wrong. But the people around her didn't seem to notice her uncertainty. They looked at her like she had answers. Maybe that was enough. "We need to talk about the future." Cordelia appeared beside them, always working, always planning. "The legal threats are handled, but there are other challenges. The sanctuary can't stay hidden forever." "What do you suggest?" "Legitimacy. We register as a nonprofit. Apply for veteran support grants. Partner with established charities. Make ourselves visible and connected. Make attacking us impossible." "Won't that put us at risk?" "Different kind of risk. Right now we're vulnerable because nobody knows we exist. If we go public, we become vulnerable because everyone knows. But it also means we can help more people, expand our mission, build something that outlasts all of us." Maya considered this. Her grandfather had chosen secrecy, but he'd also prepared Maya for this moment, had trusted her to make decisions he couldn't have imagined. "Do it," Maya said. "Start the process, but I want Bishop and Raven and Garrett involved in every step. This isn't my sanctuary, it's ours." Cordelia smiled. "Your grandfather would be proud." The first public announcement came on a Tuesday. Every major news network covered it. The Haven Trust, now officially registered as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, was opening its doors. Applications were being accepted for veterans' foster children and anyone who needed a second chance. The response was overwhelming. Within 48 hours, they'd received over 10,000 inquiries. Donations poured in from across the country. Politicians wanted photo opportunities. Celebrities offered endorsements. Universities requested research partnerships. "We can't help this many people," Maya said, staring at the emails. "Not yet," Cordelia agreed. "But we can grow, expand, open new facilities, train other organizations." Her eyes gleamed with possibility. "Your grandfather dreamed of this, but he never thought it was possible. Maybe he was right. Maybe we're making a mistake. Maybe, but the only way to find out is to try." Garrett appeared in the doorway. "We have visitors, federal agents. They want to talk about Titan." The lead agent was a woman named Sarah Mitchell. She had eyes that saw everything. "Miss Brennan, thank you for meeting with us. Did I have a choice?" "You always have a choice, but I think you'll want to hear this." She placed a folder on the table. "Titan Mining filed for bankruptcy this morning. Their CEO has been arrested. 3 board members are cooperating with prosecutors." "That's good news." "It gets better. During our investigation, we discovered Titan had similar operations running across 7 states. Indigenous communities, small ranchers, anyone sitting on land they wanted." Mitchell's expression hardened. "Thanks to the evidence your grandfather collected and the witnesses you helped protect, we've been able to shut down all of it." Maya let that sink in. Her grandfather's 20 years of documentation had saved people she'd never meet. "There's something else," Mitchell said. "We found financial records showing payments to your aunt and uncle. $2 million over 3 years, in exchange for information about you, your location, your habits, your vulnerabilities." Mitchell's voice softened. "They were planning to have you declared mentally incompetent, institutionalized, removed permanently." The air left Maya's lungs. "My aunt is dead." "We know, we're investigating, but your uncle is cooperating fully. In exchange for immunity, he's provided testimony that will help us prosecute everyone involved. He's a witness, not a defendant." That was the deal. Mitchell stood. "I know it's not justice, not really, but it's the best we could do." After she left, Maya sat alone. The walls were covered with photographs. 30 years of lives saved and families built. Her grandfather had understood that fighting evil required sacrifice and patience, and sometimes accepting outcomes that felt wrong. Maya was beginning to understand too. 6 months later, the sanctuary had transformed. New buildings rose above ground, solar panels covered every roof, a school had been established. 2,000 residents had become 3,000. Garrett had taken over operations management. He'd quit his corporate job and devoted himself fully to the sanctuary's mission. Maya was 10 years old now. She'd grown into her role. The uncertainty had faded. She made decisions with confidence born from experience. The call came at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday. "Someone needs help," Bishop said. A girl, 15 years old, caught trying to steal a Harley. She had this. Bishop showed Maya a photograph. 2 young men in military fatigues. Danny and Hawk Grenada, 1980, brothers forever. "Who is she?" "Her name is Sloan, Danny Mitchell's niece, Senator's cousin." Bishop's voice was heavy. "Danny died in a VA hospital 2 years ago. PTSD from the Gulf War. Sloan's been bouncing between foster homes. Last one kicked her out 3 months ago." "Bring her here." Sloan arrived at dawn, 15 years old, thin, hair tangled, eyes holding wounded defiance Maya recognized from Garrett's eyes months ago. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, ready to fight. "So you're the famous kid guardian. What are you, like 12, 10, almost 11? "Great, a baby running a biker gang." "It's not a gang, it's a family." Sloan laughed, harsh, bitter. "I've heard that before. Every foster home says the same thing. They're all liars." "I'm not lying. Prove it." Maya looked at her, looked past the anger and fear, looked at the girl underneath who was terrified of hoping. "I can't prove it with words, only with time, but give us a chance, one chance. If you hate it here, you can go, no questions asked." Just like that. Just like that. Sloan studied her, eyes sharp, suspicious. "Why, Pauline?" "Because my grandfather built this place for people like you. People who got hurt by systems that were supposed to help them." Maya's voice was quiet. "You don't have to trust me, But you deserve a chance to rest, even if it's just for one night. Something flickered in Sloane's eyes. One night, and then I decide. One night became 1 week. Sloane didn't trust anyone, ate alone, slept with her door locked. But she stayed. Maya gave her space, made sure she had food and clothes and a room of her own. The breakthrough came 3 weeks later. Maya was in the workshop watching Wrench rebuild a Harley engine. Sloane appeared in the doorway. She watched Wrench work with the same intensity she watched everything. "You want to learn?" Wrench's voice was gruff, but not unkind. Sloane hesitated. "I don't know anything about engines." "Neither did I when I started." "Only way to learn is to start." Wrench looked at her. His face was scarred, but his eyes were patient. "What do I do?" Wrench handed her a wrench. "Hold this. Watch what I do. Ask questions." Sloane took the wrench. Her hands shook slightly, but she gripped it tight. Maya watched from the doorway. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. The moment when Sloane stopped running and started building. 6 months later, Sloane had transformed. She spent every spare moment in the workshop. She had a gift for it, an intuitive understanding that surprised everyone. Within weeks, she was diagnosing problems. Within months, she was teaching younger kids. "She's special," Wrench told Maya, "could run this whole operation someday." That evening, Maya found Sloane on the roof, staring at stars. She climbed up, sat beside her. "You're not going to tell me to go to bed? Would you listen?" "Probably not." "Then what's the point?" They sat in silence. "My uncle used to talk about this place," Sloane said finally, "in his letters. He called it the only home that didn't hurt him." "What happened to him?" "The Gulf War, PTSD, decades of nightmares, a government that pretended he didn't exist." Sloane's voice was bitter but sad. "He tried to get better, but the system kept failing him." "I'm sorry. It's not your fault." Sloane turned to Maya. "But it makes me wonder, if this place existed, why didn't my uncle come here? Maybe he didn't know how. Maybe he was protecting you. Maybe he was too proud." Maya paused. "My mom did the same thing. Kept me away because she thought it was the only way to keep me safe." Sloane almost smiled. "I've been thinking about staying." Maya's heart jumped, but she kept her voice calm. "Yeah, not because I trust you, but because it's the first place that feels like it might be worth trusting someday." "That's enough for now." "Is it?" "It has to be. Trust takes time." Maya stood. "Take all the time you need. We're not going anywhere." The next morning, Maya found a box on her desk. Inside was a spark plug, polished until it gleamed, hung on a chain. Maya smiled. She walked to the workshop. Sloane was already there. "Thank you," Maya said. "For what? For staying, for trying." "Don't make it weird." But Maya could see the smile Sloane was trying to hide. She reached into her pocket, pulled out something she'd been carrying. Her grandmother's gold locket, the one Hawk had carried through 2 wars in over 30 years. "I want you to have this." Sloane's hand stopped moving. "I can't take that. It belonged to my grandmother. She gave it to my grandfather before Grenada. He carried it every day for 50 years. Maya pressed it into Sloane's palm. "Now I'm giving it to you." "Why?" "Because you're fighting a war too, not with guns, but with everything you've been through. My grandmother understood about choosing love over fear." Maya's voice was quiet. "You're learning that now. I thought this might help." "What if I break it?" "Then we'll fix it. That's what we do here." Maya smiled. "Besides, my grandfather survived 2 wars with that locket. I think it can handle a teenage mechanic." Sloane laughed, a real laugh. "You're weird." "I've been told." Sloane fastened the locket around her neck, tucking it under her shirt. "Thank you for everything. Thank me by passing it on someday when you meet someone who needs it more." "How will I know?" "You'll know. When the time comes, you'll know." 2 years passed. The sanctuary continued to grow. New facilities opened in 3 states. Veterans programs expanded. Youth mentorship initiatives flourished. Maya was 12 now. She'd grown into a role with wisdom earned through trial and fire. Garrett ran operations. Sloane taught mechanics. Bishop and Raven watched over everything. A reporter from the New York Times requested a feature story. Jennifer Walsh spent 2 weeks at the sanctuary. Full access, interviews with everyone, observing programs, asking thoughtful and uncomfortable questions. Maya gave her complete access, no restrictions, no handlers. On her last day, Jennifer requested a final interview. You've built something remarkable here. A community that takes in people society has given up on. It shouldn't work, but it does. Why do you think that is? Maya thought about it. Because we don't pretend we're perfect. We don't promise everything will be okay. We just promise they won't face their problems alone. Is that enough? For some people, it's everything. Maya met her eyes. I was alone for 3 years after my parents died. Then I came here and found 2,000 people who chose to be my family, who wanted me, who were willing to fight for me. That's powerful. It's not my story, it's everyone's story here. They were alone and then they weren't. They were lost. And then they found home. Maya paused. That's what my grandfather understood. He didn't build buildings or programs. He built a place where people could stop being alone. Jennifer closed her notebook. Off the record, I've covered a lot of organizations. Most care more about their image than their mission. She stood, extended her hand. This place is different. You're different, and the world needs to know. The article published 6 weeks later, 12,000 words covering everything. The history, the mission, the challenges, the successes. It didn't shy away from difficulties, but presented them honestly. The response was overwhelming. $100,000 in donations in 1 week. Applications tripled. Politicians wanted meetings. Universities requested partnerships. But what mattered most to Maya was a letter that arrived on a Tuesday morning. Handwritten. No return address. Dear Maya, I saw the article. I read every word 3 times. And I wanted you to know you saved my life. I'm a veteran, Gulf War II tours. I came home broken. For years I thought about ending it, actually made plans. Then I read your story, about an 8-year-old standing before 300 soldiers. And I thought if she can do that, maybe I can survive one more day. I'm not ready to come to your sanctuary yet, maybe never. But knowing it exists, knowing people like you are fighting for people like me, that's enough to keep me going. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for showing me hope is still possible. A fellow survivor. Maya read the letter 5 times. Then she understood what her grandfather had been trying to build all along. Not a ranch, not a trust, not an organization, a lighthouse, a beacon in the darkness. A promise that no matter how lost you were, there was always somewhere to go. Hawk Brennan had spent over 30 years building that lighthouse. And now at 12 years old, Maya was its keeper. The 5th anniversary celebration was the biggest yet. 15,000 people gathered on the Wyoming plains. Veterans, foster children grown up, hellsangels from across the country. Maya stood on the main stage. Bishop was there, Raven beside him, Garrett in the front row. Sloan stood off to the side, her jacket covered in patches, the golden locket glinting at her throat. You going to say something? Bishop asked. Same thing I always say. The truth. Maya stepped up to the microphone. 5 years ago, I was an 8-year-old orphan who inherited a ranch from a grandfather I'd never met. I didn't know anything about running a sanctuary or leading a community. I was just a scared kid who didn't know where she belonged. She paused. Today I'm 13 years old. I still make mistakes. I still wake up some mornings wondering if I'm the right person for this. Her voice strengthened. But I've learned something. Family isn't about blood. It's about choice. Every person in this sanctuary is family because they chose to be, because they showed up, because they stayed. Her eyes found Sloan. My grandfather believed everyone deserves a second chance. As many chances as it takes, he believed broken doesn't mean worthless, that the world is better when we take care of each other. Maya pulled out her grandfather's journal. This journal holds over 30 years of my grandfather's work. I'm going to keep writing in it because the work doesn't stop. As long as there are people who need help, we'll be here. She closed the journal. 5 years ago, I didn't know what family meant. Now I do. Family is choosing love over fear every single day. Family is this place, these people. Her voice rang out. My name is Maya Brennan. I'm 13 years old, and I'm the luckiest person alive. The roar shook the earth. That night, Maya walked alone through the sanctuary, past the workshops, the medical center, the school, the housing units, 5 years of growth, 5 years of learning what it meant to lead. She ended up at her grandfather's desk. The walls were covered with photographs, new ones alongside the old. Pictures of people who'd found their way here and built lives worth living. Maya opened the journal, turned to a blank page, began to write. Today is the 5th anniversary. I'm 13 now, old enough to understand things I couldn't at 8, young enough to know I still have everything to learn. Grandfather, I hope I'm making you proud. I hope the choices I've made are ones you would have made, are you saying? I hope the legacy you built will outlive me the same way it outlived you. But mostly I hope you know that I finally understand what you were trying to teach me. Family is choice, and I choose this family every day for the rest of my life. Maya closed the journal, placed it carefully in the drawer. Outside, the Wyoming stars blazed across an infinite sky. Somewhere in the sanctuary, 3,000 people slept peacefully. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new arrivals, new problems, new opportunities. But tonight, Maya Brennan allowed herself something she hadn't felt in 5 years. Peace. She was home. She was loved. And no matter what came next, she would never be alone again. The sanctuary stood strong against the night, its lights burning like promises kept. Hawk Brennan had built a dream. His granddaughter had made it real. And 3,000 people would protect that dream until the end of time. Because that was what family did. The wind carried the sound of motorcycles in the distance, engines rumbling like heartbeats, like thunder, like a promise that would never be broken. Maya smiled. Whatever came next, she was ready. The Haven Sanctuary continues to operate today. Over 5,000 veterans and children have found homes within its walls. Hawk Brennan's legacy lives on through every life saved, every family built, and every promise kept. This story is dedicated to everyone who ever felt alone and to the families who chose them anyway. Because family isn't made by blood, it's made by choice.